C138 245 264. Mr. Francis, this is a nominal pro forma dated the 10th of July 1995 when it comes up on the screen. It's a nominal pro forma for Matt Rack of the London Fire Brigade. You will see at the top there is an RF number which we have partially redacted, and if we go to the text, please. Matt Rack, employed by the London Fire Brigade, is the chair of the North East London branch of the Fire Brigades Union. He is also an active member of militant Labour. Rack leads an ML front group known as Flame, presumably for ML supporters in the fire service, and he is the editor of the group's newspaper. And then there's some information about Mr. Rack's brother Nick, one of Militant Labour's full-time editors for their paper Militant. Can you help us with the significance of Mr. Rack's work with the Fire Brigades Union in this reporting?
The fact that he was in the Fire Brigade Union, he was also a member of Militant, means once again that's enough to be of interest to the special branch. I don't know if later on that a file was created on him, because I see his brother Nick had one. If the event he wasn't in the Fire Brigade with regards to union matter, the fact that he was a brother of Nick Rack wouldn't have been reported. It was the fact that he was in the London Fire Brigade Union.
If you could take that down and have from C159, document number 245594, please. This is another nominal pro forma for an individual. 10 days later, 20th of October 1995, this person is said to be employed as a trolley steward for British Rail. It identifies which line. Militant Labour member. If we could have the text up, please. After a brief interlude as a care worker for the disabled, Privacy has now found less arduous employment as a catering steward on the British Rail Privacy line between London and Privacy. As a committed militant Labour activist, Privacy joined the RMT as soon as he began working for BR, and he is now agitating within the union to advance the ML view. This appears, so far as union activity is concerned, away team activity is set out below, but on the union activity, it appears that there was an enthusiasm for reporting the change in union arising from the change in job. Is that the sort of thing that you were expected to track?
Absolutely, but this particular chap himself, once again the RF's covered up, but he would have been a person that he would have had a file in his own right, as well as with regards to his employment, and he was one of those very spotters that I was talking about earlier.
If we could take that down now, please. Could we have up B17 30748, please? This is 10th of October. It's a note for file on the Security Service liaison file. Meeting with SDS officers 10th of October 1995. On the 10th of October, DCI Keith Edmondson and DI Lambert of the SDS visited the Security Service to discuss a number of matters. And A, militant Labour. Security Service officer briefed the SDS officers on the current level of our study of ML. She agreed to provide a written brief for HN 43 concerning ML individuals of interest. HN 43 may be moving away from YRE and more towards individuals at ML. CIS officer commented that this would be useful. Don't want you to go into any details about the contents of the brief, but can you recall receiving a brief which had been produced by the security service?
Yes.
And is it right that by this stage of your deployment you are beginning to pivot away from YRE and more towards ML itself?
Or the way I looked at it was carrying on. I didn't reduce my coverage of the YRE. I had an additional coverage starting, it would have been quite close before that, September 95, when I assumed not a new role, it was an additional role, as well as being the branch secretary of the YRE for Hackney Islington. I became the militant Labour branch secretary, so I didn't necessarily regard it moving away. Because I wanted to keep that side of the coverage for public order, but certainly where I was going with regards to militant Labour, there was less interest for several individuals I reported on, without going into it, for SDS purposes is what there was for security service purposes. So it wasn't instead of, it was an additional to.
Can we take that down now and have from C167 document number 245771, please? This, when it comes up, Mr. Francis, is a report of the London Militant Labour Conference held on Saturday the 9th of December 1995. If we could go to page 3 at the top, please. First of all, can I take it you attended this conference?
Absolutely.
Source comment, that would be your source comment, would it?
It would be a mine alone in this one.
The conference as a whole was interesting in that it demonstrated a clear shift. Some would say reversal in ML's strategy for the coming year. Industrial disputes are in, racism and the YRE are out. ML obviously sees the new SLP as having potential to attract disaffected Labour supporters, and it wants to be part of it. The controversial immigration and asylum bill currently before Parliament could have been exploited to revitalise YRE, but the issue was simply skirted around. Many activists think that YRE will be put into storage by midsummer. First of all, did you discuss this change in strategic direction by militant Labour with your managers?
Yes.
And what was their reaction?
They're just accepting what reporting I'm doing, and from a public order perspective, I was not under any thought whatsoever I had to embellish what the YRE was trying to stay out there or something like that. I was being honest in what the report was. So whether or not there were concerns that there would be no job for me because there was no YRE wasn't expressed to me. There wasn't over concern, and I think that's why it sticks in my head. When you said I moved away, I felt as though I was keeping a good tabs on what the YRE was doing, even if, like it suggests there wasn't as much happening anymore.
And did your managers refine your tasking in any way, or were you asked just to continue as you had been?
Continue, and then it's fair enough militants saying that they're going towards industrial disputes, but what militant was looking for was always new members, new monies, and I think that's why I then flagged up where it might be going. So there's no feeling that there wouldn't be something that militant would attach itself to. So if YRE finished, there would be something else. So I don't think there was a concern that I'd just be sitting there reporting on militant. There would be a successor to the YRE in some capacity that wasn't clear at that particular stage.
Can we take that down now, please? Could we have up from tab C170, 34434, please? Could we have the date for 16th of January 1996, then paragraph 2 expanded, please. Bears your nominal at the bottom. On a local level, the Hackney and Islington branch will be holding a schools conference on the 3rd of February to promote its work against racism. There will also be an ongoing campaign against the privatisation of Hackney Council housing stock. A major target on the ML horizon is the nascent Socialist Labour Party, SLP, being established by Arthur Scargill. There will be a public meeting at the Hull Keavy Centre in Stoke Newington tonight to discuss the new party. ML is very keen to get into the SLP from the outset. At present, it is declared policy that ML will not revert to the entryist tactics it employed against the Labour Party, and at present, ML leaders want to be able to affiliate the organisation to the SLP en masse without relinquishing its own identity. So 2 things there. Can we take it that despite the general strategic shift reported at the conference that we looked at a moment ago, anti-racist work was still continuing?
At a local level, yes.
And secondly, by this stage, the party, Militant Labour, had already plainly abandoned entryism.
Correct, clearly a number of years ago.
And had that come, what was the last gasp of that, according to your reporting, when the Labour Party voted to abolish Clause 4?
Correct, yes.
So by this stage, there is no doubt that you are infiltrating a political party which is operating entirely openly.
Yes, and as reported by me, yes.
Did that state of affairs cause any review of your infiltration of Militant Labour?
None whatsoever.
And evidently your deployment continued.
Absolutely.
Can we now move to, take that down and move to 34435, please? This is tab C175. Now, if we stay on that first page for this particular report, this is the consumer comments page. And if we look at the gist on the left for this report, the security service, on the left, please. Thank you. The security service are grading this information as extremely valuable. If we could go over to page 3, please, in the beginning of the text. This shows top right, this is your reporting. And if we could have paragraph 1 up, please. This is your report on the Militant Labour annual conference in Morecambe between the 20th and the 23rd of January 1996. And is it right that you personally attended this conference?
Yes, I did.
And did you get any feedback from management in the light of the security services' reaction to it?
I never saw that particular form, but definitely verbally that yes, they were very pleased. This is, like saying February 96, they were very pleased with this particular report.
Can you give me a yes/no answer to this? Did you have any direct contact with the security service about this report?
Yes.
And if we move now to zoom it out, we can see the agenda at paragraph 3. I'll give you a moment just to look at that, but the question will be, this was a purely political conference dealing with ML's political affairs.
Yes.
Could we go to page, the bottom of paragraph 1 on page 3? Actually, that maybe turn on page 3 I want. Paragraph 2, please. Security at the conference was remarkably tight, and I'll give you a moment to look at it to see the details about the security.
Yes.
Includes saying anything considered sensitive was collected and checked at the end of each session. Do you recall that happening?
Not specifically, but my intelligence report, I spent a lot of time to make sure it was accurate. So if I said that happened, then I can't specifically remember it.
The security, was that because anything untoward was happening, or was that because a legitimate political party was protecting confidence in its internal affairs?
Specifically, what it was with Militant, they themselves were used to being an entryist party themselves. So basically, they were aware of how you could technically have the same thing happen to them. So they were security conscious with a view of interest from the equivalent of like the RIL, something like that, the smaller Trotskyist groups or other people from that area. They didn't want them in their party disrupting the same as what they had been doing in the Labour Party themselves.
But there is no suggestion of any unlawful or untoward activity.
I took it reporting from that side of things.
If we go, please, to page 4 of the file, paragraph 4. Under the heading Membership and Staffing at paragraph 4, please. In that paragraph we set out, don't we, membership figures with a regional breakdown.
Yes, sorry.
With a contrast with the previous year's membership. All confidential information to the party, but of interest to SDS customers.
SDS customers, yes.
And paragraph 6, please. Information on the party's then finances.
Yes.
Again, confidential information, but of interest to SDS customers.
You're talking a high level of interest because the party is where the party is. Like I said, it's extremely important for SDS customers, in a word, to know where every organisation is with regards to money. And if you come back with figures like that, it allows the assessment where the party is.
And if we go to page 5, paragraph 9, please. Do we see there mention of the party's effort to fund the standing of candidates in the next forthcoming general election?
Absolutely, and that's just reminded me there. I did exactly what they asked to do as a good member of Militant. I did that, and once again, that would have been an identifiable expense. The irony is the Metropolitan Police paid that 1 week's equivalent of income for that very thing.
And so it's self-evident from this paragraph that the Militant Labour is using as at least one strand of its attempts to achieve its objectives, parliamentary democracy.
Yes.
There is there are a series of appendices to this report. There's an appendix which has those who are attending the conference, but if we go to page 12, please. We have a list which extends, in fact, over to page 13 as well. Members of the Militant Labour National Committee. Was this committee elected at the conference?
Yes, but it's sort of a lot of it was ratified positions. They didn't have a lot of people contending positions, but yes, they were certainly voted for.
If you were to rate the significance of the intelligence you obtained at this conference, according to your understanding of customer priorities, how high up the list would a bang up-to-date list of the Militant Labour's National Committee be?
For the security services, extremely high, because that's exactly up to date, along with members. There's a lot of work on my behalf to get that list the way it was. Special branch, C squad of interest, limited because there's sort of more of a watching brief. Public order wise, for the public order remit, absolutely zero.
Could we take that document down now, please? Could we have from tab B19 245903, please? This is a document, we understand it's dated the 5th of February 1996. It's entitled SDS Report Writing with the following: notes for guidance in report writing by back office staff. If we look under the heading purpose, in the first paragraph under that, the purpose of SDS reporting is primarily to impart information of use or current value to customers. A secondary purpose is to place on record matters of little immediate significance, such as personal details of activists who may become prominent in the future. Do you understand that to be an accurate recitation of the purposes of SDS reporting?
I've never seen this document when I was out, but I think that's accurate. Yes, it comes across writing-wise as sort of like a John Webb document type thing.
And from that second sentence, would we be right to understand that essentially SDS UCOs may often report on individuals of little significance simply in case they go on to become significant?
It's a fine margin, as I'm saying. Unfortunately, it was down to the actual SDS officers themselves, and I was certainly aware some did a numbers game, which meant that inadvertently some poor person might get a file which could affect the rest of their life. But unfortunately, that is actually true. But there were definitely some officers, myself, Trevor Morris, we took a great deal to make sure we didn't write. Really, you could get a file very, very quickly if you followed that directions. But yes, it is accurate.
Now, we understand why you wouldn't have seen this document, because you were out in the field by February 1996.
Not sure who's directed at. I can't quite work out who that would be directed to, unless that's new people coming in the office. It doesn't quite make any sense to me.
Well, the title, Notes for Guidance in Report Writing by Back Office Staff.
I can't read it. I haven't got these on, so unless you zoom it.
But my question to you is, even though you didn't see it, does this appear to be simply committing to writing an existing practice, or is it a change of direction?
No, this is saying, I don't know. It doesn't read like a Bob Lambert document, because it's always more flowery and dramatic. So this looks like quite a steady report. Well, it looks like it's a John Webb report. John Webb was a very, very good intelligence report writing officer, and I think he's giving advice for the back office staff. I don't know if you have who wrote the document, but
it's signed by John Webb,
yeah,
dated 5th of February 1996. If we could go, please, over the page to the third paragraph. It says the responsibility for deciding whether or when an item should be reported lies with the intelligence manager. The back office need only decide yes or maybe. If in doubt, consult. Are you able to help us with whether the intelligence manager, and no names at this stage, whether the intelligence manager sat inside or outside the SDS?
I've never heard that terminology before, so I'm only guessing, which you don't want.
No, I only want to know if you can help us. Can we have the fourth paragraph, please? If an item is to be issued as a report, decide what format it will take, also decide who it will go to. Items, can we take it, therefore, that what I'm driving at is, can we tell whether decisions as to dissemination are being taken within the SDS or outside it?
No, it was before. I don't know if there's any slight change there, but when I was in the back office, you would get the report would come in, go to equivalent of John Webb, normally John Webb. John Webb would decide after consulting HN86, HN67 where the intelligence goes. By the time it then goes to me in the back office, it's already decided within the SDS where it's going. And my role in the back office was to say, you've seen them on the forms. You had box 500 stuck in the corner. That was another great task for the back office person who used to stick 500. But it was decided within us. We didn't send the intelligence out and decide where it go, if that's the question.
And when it went out to the people that the SDS had decided should see it, was further dissemination a matter for them, or did the SDS retain a say in further dissemination?
The SDS would mark up if this dissemination can't go any further if it was marked up, and it's normally marked up to the effect of to contact Chief Superintendent or something like that. There'd be something clearly to identify that it couldn't go out any further.
Thank you. Could we take that down, please? Could we have, from tab B20, sir, 527328? This, if we go to the next page, please, we'll see what it is. This is a briefing note for Assistant Commissioner Special Operations, who at that stage we believe was David Vaness, meeting with SDS officers on Thursday, the 15th of February, 1996. If we could go to page 6, please. This is part of a section of the document of the briefing which has a summary for each officer. The summary for you is at the bottom of this page. If we could just have that summary expanded, please. Give you a moment to look at it. My first question is going to be, does that accurately reflect your manager's view of your deployment at the time?
Not just the managers, that's what the managers reported back to me. They felt that that's what I would have thought the managers were saying to me as well as for this report. That's how they felt about me at that particular point in time.
And for the purposes of the ACSO is being given a glowing write-up of your deployment and performance.
And hopefully it was warranted.
Did you speak to the ACSO on the occasion of this visit?
Once again, the introduction would have been, you'd be on the equivalent of a very tight leash, as they used to say. So you would have that's literally what they would be saying on your behalf. And then Mr. Vaness, or whoever came out, there'd be a brief conversation about what was happening if he asked any further. But you'd always be very guided with a sort of 3-line whip, explain to you that it wasn't for you to take the conversation any further with these senior officers. It was them to ask, not you to go off on a tangent or something like this.
Being careful not to breach any restriction orders, can you help us with what the ACSO asked you about?
No, I can't. Sorry, I just can't remember.
What is not in this text is any mention of the Stephen Lawrence campaign. Why is that?
It really will be where the Stephen Lawrence campaign was then at that period of time. You mentioned a number of big benchmark things. So if the campaign was in one of their legal places that point of time, us in the SDS was then happy that campaign was wherever they were. It was always when one of these pinch points came to an end, where's it going to go?
There's no reference to any specific justice campaigns here, or even justice campaigns generically. Why is that?
I can't answer that. That's what they would have said. Something. Obviously, you've changed it slightly there. That's what they would have said. That's what they would have said about us, and it's not for us to open up the conversation further.
Might it be because your managers regarded all of that as subsumed within the category of public order events?
I'd say yes, that'd be fair.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we go to tab C177 246030? This is an event performer for an event on the 6th of March 1996 in Hackney, organised by the trade union Unison in connection to a council workers' strike. It's a lobby of Hackney Town Hall at which between 300 and 500 people were expected, and it was an advertised event. If we could have the text expanded, please. The trade union Unison has called a strike of its members working for Hackney Council on Wednesday the 6th of March. The strike, which demands that the council abandons its plans to end its no compulsory redundancy policy, will be punctuated by 2 lobbies at the Town Hall in Mare Street. The first of these will be at 11, the second at 6. In addition to the mass lobbies, which could attract 300 to 500 people, there will be pickets at all council premises throughout the day. Can we take it from the fact that it was advertised that Hackney Council would have known this action was coming?
Definitely.
And are you able to help us with whether Unison would be cooperating with police or not?
They would definitely be cooperating with the police.
What, in those circumstances, is the purpose of reporting on a trade union's legitimate activities relating to an industrial dispute when there is no reason to believe there'll be any lack of cooperation with police?
This is being directed from the idea of showing the security services that what I actually wrote in the report earlier about Militant Labour's new directive of doing union activity in all branches is now being undertaken by Hackney. So it's just me confirming the intelligence that I provided earlier to say they've said this at the conference, and here we are in Hackney doing what they've actually asked.
Could we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab C180 246072, please? This is another individual nominal pro forma, this time dated 14th of March 1996. This document refers to Dave Smith. It is the usual identifying data recorded, and then at the bottom it says Peck's violent, carries a knife. Those two appear to be linked. They give the impression to the reader, don't they, that this is a man who is not just violent, but also carries a lethal weapon.
There's a problem here with regard to Dave Smith that's here, and there'll be some other reports that Dave Smith for quite a while had a PIW file, which means possible identified with file. So this is, I'm trying to get confused over which Dave Smith we're talking about. The Dave Smith who's at the back here normally, he would be somebody that I would put as violent when necessary. And this particular Dave Smith didn't carry a knife at all. But this is this other Dave Smith. Now, I can't see above there what the file is, but can you go above
Yeah,
that?
the file reference is 402-86-204.
Yeah, no, that's not this. I don't know if he's here. He's normally here at the back here. That's not his. With regards to that, so that's the confusion there. If you go through all the reports I've ever done, it's always been a bit of a pain, Dave has, and Dave was a pain with the Smith aspect. But no, this particular Dave, he would talk you to death about union matters, but he would not. It's not a knife for this particular Dave Smith. But that Dave Smith who's been muddled up in there, yes, there was a violent. I don't know if we've breached somebody's privacy now, because that's not that Dave Smith, is it?
Well, just a moment. Can we just look at the entire page again? Just have a look at the identifying details. Organisation, Militant Labour.
Yes.
There's a file reference there, 495-125.
That's the updated Militant Labour file, because Militant had a lot earlier file than that. But when I took it on, they updated the file when I became active in there. So that's the Militant Labour.
That's Militant file. IC1, 5'8", medium build, virtual skinhead, drives a silver Renault 5, registered to his ex-wife.
It's just the knife bit. The knife bit isn't right in that scenario there.
Well, can I just step at a time, please?
Yeah.
The identifying details that I've just read out, down to the end of Renault 5, registered to his ex-wife, are those the details of the Dave Smith, who is a core participant in this inquiry?
I've got no idea. Looking back with regards to what vehicle he was driving then, no, I can't remember the slightest what it is. But if you had the file, you'd certainly be if it's his picture. But all I know is that the Smith thing, it took me quite a while, the other Smith, Frank, to identify him as well. We were actually told never, when we go undercover, ironically, to use the name Smith and Jones, because it doesn't appear to be real. And when it took quite a while for me to identify Frank Smith, but Dave, just 100% the Dave Smith to do with the blacklisting never carried a knife. There's no ifs, no buts.
Can I be clear? Are you saying there are three Smiths that you are mixing with? Frank Smith and two Dave Smiths?
There was more Smiths. There's another Smith.
Yeah,
and it
no
wasn't
need for any more
report-
names.
I wasn't reporting them all on either, but it was definitely, there was a confusion era till I managed to nail it down.
Can we go to page 2, please? Can we have the text expanded? Dave Smith is a long-standing member of ML who has a yearning for the old days of planned violence against the fascists. He is a member of the currently inactive away team. Like many other away team members, he confidently predicts a return to violent disorder on the streets while talking about past glories. He's an active member of the Tower Hamlets branch of the party. His commitment to the extreme left has not diminished, and he will be at the forefront of any high-profile ML activity if and when it happens. Smith was one of those arrested for attempting to attack BNP activist privacy during a Tower Hamlets council by-election. Smith is not and never has been a member of the Anti-Nazi League. Smith is believed to live at privacy, but this has not been confirmed. Does that do anything to help you establish whether or not this report is about the Dave Smith who is a core participant in this inquiry?
The bulk of it is Dave Smith as the core participant in this inquiry, but you actually see there, that did remind me, there was actually another Dave Smith with a file who was in the Anti-Nazi League that we had to clear up that wasn't that one that he was referring to, and that's why it's quite unusual, and you probably won't have another report whereby you're reporting a negative to say he's a member of that group, because there was also another Dave Smith who was the ANL as well. So there's a lot of muddling up there here, but wherever it is, that particular aspect. But also the other Dave Smith was involved with the away team stewarding type stuff as well. And for this particular Dave Smith, he was definitely a defender more than he was, but Dave Smith was also handy to have on your side if you happen to bump in some BNP somewhere, we want to sort of chat with them type thing.
Dave Smith, the core participant, did you ever see Dave Smith with any sort of knife?
No, the core participant, Dave Smith, no.
Mr. Smith's evidence, as I understand it, is to the effect he sometimes did have a knife with him for entirely legitimate purposes of his work as a builder.
And I didn't see if he had the knife, or maybe that's where the confusion came, that if I did write something down, it might have been the quantity of what he said, but it wasn't. Me having a knife written down here without then quantifying, there's a lot of difference between like a little knife or like equivalent of zombie knife or work knife. And if that had been here, it should have been more clear what it actually was. But Dave, I never saw him with a knife that could have been used in a situation like with a violent confrontation. None of the away team whatsoever carried it. It was an offensive weapon they had. You could turn a glass bottle, particularly a Lucozade bottle. That was potentially the only offensive weapon that was there, but that was also sort of the de rigueur drink type thing as well. But I never saw him going onto a demo and saying, "Oh, look, I got a knife." He's like that. He isn't that sort of person, and never was that sort of person.
Was Dave Smith, core participant Dave Smith, that is, a man who confidently predicted a return to violent disorder on the streets while talking about past glories?
That was very much a theme, not just amongst Dave. It was the away team members. And if I was to be totally honest, which that's a requirement, me here, I was actually quite looking forward to us, not now in my head, thank you very much, but at the time I was looking quite forward to it. It was an adrenal rush and everything else. I think all of us who'd done the more stewarding type, I think there was a bit of a look to more those exciting times rather than being a normal steward.
Can you, just to be absolutely clear, are you saying core participant Dave Smith was part and parcel of that sentiment?
He was.
Can you help us with what past glories were being discussed?
Just trying to remember who was involved in what war story when we were out there. So at the time I would have remembered what he was involved in. So whether or not he was one of the ones who was involved in the BNP on Brick Lane, he was certainly with us at Victoria on some of them. So past glories to any of the reports that I've mentioned where there was some interaction with the BNP, physical.
The reference to arrest. Did you see Dave Smith, the core participant, arrested with your own eyes?
No.
We've looked at this report, which on the face of it sounds very sinister indeed, talking about someone who's violent and carries a knife. You've accepted that more clarity was needed. Did you give any thought to the potential consequences of a report which portrayed someone as violent and knife carrying might have upon their career?
Well, if I would have ever seen that, it wouldn't have been allowed to go through. If I'd have ever seen this report with that Dave Smith and that Dave Smith down there, I would have never allowed that report to go anywhere because it was wrong. But I saying you put the work in. If there's some confusion through the SDS side, which Dave Smith it was, maybe the best thing would have been to come, although we did have talks about the Dave Smith files. But no, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Of course it would be if somebody from the Economic League, or whatever they were called at the time, rung up and they said that, and Dave Smith himself has actually turned around and said, because of the reporting, that his life was affected. Well, you read something like that, of course it would have affected him. It's totally wrong. If that information ever got out anywhere, I don't know. I know he's had some information sent to him, and if the information said that he was violent and he was a knife carrier, then that information has come directly from here, which was inaccurate and is very, very wrong. I'd have no compunction to say that he was violent, but I don't agree with that at all.
I'll be coming back to blacklisting again later on, but in the light of that answer, can we just clear something up now? You referred to if the Economic League had rung up. To your direct knowledge, did the Consulting Association ever telephone the Special Demonstration Squad?
They'd have no access to that. There'd be no access. When rung up, I was certainly aware, you're going to ask questions later on, that there was contact to Special Branch itself, which would be different people in the Special Branch had contacts within there. But no, the SDS had no direct link with the Economics League, as it was called then, and apparently later on became this consulting agency.
Can we take this document down now, please? And can we go to C181 747 764? This is a report about an event that's an event performance, about an event which is going to take place on the 23rd of March 1996 between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. between Forest Gate and Ilford Police Station. It is being organised by the Ibrahim Say Memorial Campaign. It's a march and a picket. 300 to 350 people expected. No disorder expected. Tense and hostile. In fact, I think this is ex post facto report, so there was no disorder. Mood was tense and hostile, and it had been advertised. Were you on this march and picket?
I specifically can't remember it, but if you show me the references at the back that the YRE was there, I would have been there. I just went on a lot of demos. It definitely rings a bell, but if it did show that the YRE was there, then I would have been there because there's no other reporting there. It rings a bell, but nothing specifically.
We can go over the page. Thank you. If we look at, on the left-hand page, the top paragraph of text, that is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some 300 people gathered to picket Forest Gate Police Station and to march to Ilford Police Station, the place where Ibrahim Say, an African refugee, died after having CS gas used on him by police. About 90% of the demonstrators were from the local black community, with the remainder being predominantly white political groups such as the SWP, Militant Labour, the Workers' Revolutionary Party and the Black and Asian New Monitoring Project. With the exception of the NMP, which attended to the stewarding, the political groups were only there to sell their papers. Does that assist you to recall whether you were there?
Yes, I would have been there, but not by myself.
And if we could look, please, at the source comments. Considering the level of bad feeling among the marchers, it is remarkable that there was no trouble. Police restraint and effective stewarding are jointly responsible for this. Future Say campaign marches and demonstrations will have to be handled in a similar fashion to maintain orderly, if somewhat strained conduct. Would that have been your assessment?
It had been a collective assessment. 2, maybe 3 SDS officers there, but I would have been part of that assessment.
And if we go to the paragraph above this, please. No future events were announced, but it is clear that there will be other protests as the investigation into Say's death continues. The predominant role of the NMP did not go unnoticed by other political activists present, and the white political groups represented were subjected to intimidating opprobrium by the black marchers who were wise to their attempts to exploit the issue. Can you help us with your recollection of anything connected to intimidating opprobrium?
I can guarantee that word didn't come from me because I don't even know what it means, so it's not from me.
Can you help us from your recollection what the relationship between local marchers and left-wing political activists was?
I think it summarises there that it was the feeling that I think they were wise for what the intention of the groups were there. I think they were wise to what groups were trying to get from it, and it really wasn't necessary to help put the interests of the campaign at the forefront.
We saw from the source comment that this was a demonstration that had been sensitively policed.
Yes.
We saw that there was no disorder despite the strained relationships. Would it be fair to say there was, on this occasion, no need for any secret intelligence in order to ensure orderly, legitimate protest?
Depending on what the pro forma said originally. The original event pre-pro forma, I'm not sure if it's the other way round, that the police at the time, definitely, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that the police, when they have a black demonstration, were always more concerned that there might be a problem there. So I don't know what the pre-assessment was by us, but there's evidently that maybe the pre-assessment was very, very clear. You know, the police have to be on best behaviour here. This is really well, and obviously the activists there, the credit as well. It was effective stewarding as well. But I'm not 100% sure I can answer your question truthfully without seeing what the pre-assessment was. This is post.
Did you have any dealings with Mr. Say's family?
No, I didn't. I didn't have anyone at all.
One gets the impression from reading this report that the local community was perfectly able to protest in its own way without needing any assistance from political campaigners. Is that fair?
Totally fair.
Not being led by anybody?
No, but from the SWP and also the militant perspective, they would like to have been involved with the campaign to lead it for them, because otherwise they wouldn't be involved there. But it wasn't necessary, totally correctly, and that is a different feeling to what it was had, not just by us, I think actually to the groups. The groups felt that these that black people needed help organising their campaign.
And the truth was they didn't.
Totally evident here.
Can you recall whether there was any management comment or guidance about either this demonstration or the Ibrahim Say Memorial Campaign generally?
Saying it's so hard without the pre-assessment.
Yeah, I'm afraid we don't have that.
But if it comes out that this is what we said as the pre-assessment, then the answer to your question is if we said, please, you've got to handle this with care, behave yourselves, and then this comes out as a result, then the answer to your question is that's very satisfactory for the SDS.
More cynical observers of the evidence to this inquiry might be wondering why the police had to be advised to behave themselves. Was that the unfortunate reality?
That was definitely the unfortunate reality, and it is a shame that not just in this, I haven't seen a lot of pro formas, and unfortunately we had to say that, spell it out on a number of occasions to the police. It didn't quite spell it out like behave yourself. It would have been something along the lines of what's been written in how very sensitive everything is, although you need to tell the police that this is sensitive. But the SDS on occasions did have to spell it out, unfortunately.
Could we take that document down now, please? Could we have tab C189 246 190? This is a document about an event on the 29th of April 1996 at 2 o'clock. This is a prospective report. This is about a picket that is being planned outside the CPS headquarters at Ludgate Hill. There's a special branch reference for the organiser, the Brian Douglas campaign. About 20 people are expected. Disorder is said to be unlikely, and it has been advertised by leaflet. Could we have the text, please? The moribund Brian Douglas campaign has come back to life with the announcement by the CPS that the 2 police officers concerned will not be prosecuted over the death of Douglas. The campaign's initial response has been to call a picket of the CPS headquarters on Monday, the 29th of April. This event will be followed by a picket of Kennington Police Station at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, the 8th of May, the day on which a memorial service for the dead man will be held at St Anselm's Church in Tooting Bec. There is some input from militant Labour in the Brian Douglas campaign. Ruth Woolhouse is on the steering committee, but otherwise there is no involvement by the white left. Can you help us? Did you ever meet directly with members of Brian Douglas's family?
No.
Were you involved in the Brian Douglas campaign in any way?
I went on a couple of demonstrations, and this may very well be probably more than a few demonstrations, but I is one of those again that I had coverage of the demonstration, so I was able to put something in the mood that would be there, and this was because information I was getting directly from Ruth Woolhouse, who thought she was talking to just the Hackney Islington concerned branch secretary, if he could get some members to come down to these events in support of her locally. So it was one of those that we felt in the SDS we could monitor that without me having to be a member or on the committee, because once again, Ruth Woolhouse, she had no reasons to suppose by talking to me finding out what is going on in that campaign, and that's the hallmarks of what I was doing with any campaign that we had access to via Militant.
Now, there are 3 events mentioned. There's a picket of the CPS headquarters. So just to be clear, did you attend that?
I think I did.
The picket of Kennington Police Station on the 8th of May. Did you attend that?
Yes, that's a more memorable one.
The memorial service for Mr. Douglas at St Anselm's Church in Tooting Bec.
I did not attend that one.
Did the Brian Douglas campaign cooperate with the police?
As far as I was aware, they did.
Did the Brian Douglas campaign have a history of association with public disorder?
There's definitely an event where it did really kick off, but I can't remember saying head, unfortunately. It was either the Brian Douglas campaign, one of the events definitely kicked off that was there, but that was an expression of the anger through what happened, so I think that was very early when the death first happened, but saying I can't remember. I know I was involved in it, because it's another little memory I've got tucked away as well, and that was a riot.
Are you able to help us whether that was at an event organised by the Justice Campaign or not?
No.
No, it wasn't, or no, you can't help?
I can't remember. I can't distinguish who organised what and when it actually. On the day it kicked off, I don't know who was there. It was very much reported. It went in the media. It was a riot there.
What were you tasked to find out?
Basically, very much along the lines of that. If the campaign said they were going to go to the equivalent of the CPS headquarters, what the mood would be, what the anticipation of the people were. But obviously they wouldn't necessarily have control either, that with all their best intentions in the world, the wrong group of people could get involved there as well. But yeah, my role was to, whenever they did anything that had a public order potential to it, would have been to report that through. And
by this stage, if I've understood the reporting correctly, there is no reporting, there's no involvement by the white left, save Ruth Woolhouse on the steering committee. Was it abundantly clear by this stage that the Brian Douglas campaign was another campaign that was perfectly able to look after and organise itself?
With a slight problem on this one, you actually have got somebody from Militant Labour as a very active person on the steering committee. So as far as we're concerned, the special branch perspective, you have got a white Trotskyist from Militant Labour in a steering committee, and as the name suggests, you're steering their campaign. So this is different to the Say one, because there was nobody. This one would have been more concerned to the special branch because Militant Labour were there.
And given what we've heard about the state of Militant Labour by this time, what was the concern of the police arising from the presence of a member of Militant Labour on the steering committee?
well, not necessarily the police, but the special branch, that once again they could be persuaded to make the campaign more militant. That's what the worry. That's what the worry was.
And by militant, what do you mean?
As in more potential for public disorder, make them seek demands from the state, make them change the campaign, and just basically become more with regards to demos and trying to cause change.
How well did you know Ruth Woolhouse?
Not on a friendship basis, but certainly I wouldn't have had any trouble seeing her, asking for her for updates on the campaign. You'd never make it obvious, can you give me an update? It was always from the perspective of, as the branch secretary, do you need any assistance down there? Can we help with anything from that line? So, very, very pleasant.
Can you help us? I'd like to know which side of the divide Ms. Woolhouse might fall. Was she someone who cared passionately about subjects like this and wanted to do her best to support the campaign, or was she the sort of person who was going to incite the campaign to commit criminal offences of a public order nature?
No, I'd put her in the very caring campaign, the idea. She's a very, very pleasant, very caring person. But I'm saying she was still a militant. She was still a Trotskyist as far as we're concerned. She was a subversive. They do subversive things. So I'm not, Christ, am I trying to justify anything? I'm not trying to justify, I'm trying to explain it. Understood.
Can we take that down and have from B68, sir, 720991? And if we go to the first page to show you what it is, it's the Guardian online Q&A that you did on the 25th of June 2013. If we could go to page 7, please. And if we look at the question under Tux 28, timed at 12:58. And it says, was there a point at which you attempted to quit the force due to your reservations about your undercover work? And if so, when did you decide to continue for the purposes of then becoming a whistleblower? If we could have the reply, please. The lowest point I reached morally was when I was standing outside Kennington Police Station for the Brian Douglas Justice Campaign in May 1995. It was a candlelit vigil and his relatives were all there. Stopping there, this says May 1995. The document that we've just looked at was about a vigil on the 8th of May 1996. Can you help us with whether you've got the year wrong here or whether it was an annual event and you attended a candlelit vigil in 1995 as well?
I'd go on the date that you've got there. I've made mistakes with date before. I had no access to documents, but it could very well have been that date, but it could have also been that. I don't know.
And then it goes on to say, Brian died after an encounter with police and his family were campaigning for the case to be properly investigated. There were allegations, suspicions about how he died. This was one of Black Justice campaigns that I had infiltrated at the order of my superior officers. Can I pause there and ask you to clarify on whose orders did you, you've used the word in the interview, infiltrate the Brian Douglas Justice Campaign?
Basically, this, with regards to infiltrate, as in you can report back. So, have you infiltrated by being on the campaign, or have you infiltrated by being able to provide information from the campaign there? So, for me, I was providing intelligence on this Black Justice campaign. I know how I personally felt outside Kennington Police Station when it happened, because it was a large moment for me. So, yeah, the infiltration, but, am I going to break down in this particular thing, but what I mean by infiltration means I actually was getting real good intelligence from somebody who was on the steering committee that knew me really well, or am I just going to say overall that I was reporting back on the Black Justice campaign, but not breaking it down exactly how I was obtaining that information. But certainly the first sentence there, certainly the lowest point, I certainly felt, well, I was there, because the whole thing about is, the person was dead there because of the police action, and here I am reporting on the campaign that it was caused by the police. And there's this whole conflict of what happened, the conflict of what I'm doing. So it's certainly correct from that aspect. But yes, I didn't break it down exactly what I meant.
Well, two things. First of all, I'm understanding your evidence to be that you think reporting on would have been a better word than infiltrated.
They only let me do this once, so I've never done it again after that. So yes, it would have been far better to say reported on. And
the second aspect, was this reporting on the orders of your superior officers, and if so, who ordered you?
Well, this goes back to my original tasking by H86, but as you've seen, the reports there afterwards, I was still reporting on Black Justice campaigns with the other officers that then took over, like Bob Lambert, Keith Edmondson. So that's just basically the collection of the superior officers. I refer to those, but there was nobody more senior other than we've gone very early on with Bob Potter. So I think as a collection of, at the order of my superior officers, it is certainly beyond just one officer. They were aware, that everybody was aware that I was at this demo, reporting back on this demo. There was no, I wasn't there by myself. I was doing reports on it, and they were going, senior officers. And it didn't stop in the SDS. These reports went into the special branch.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab C194 246 222? And could we, this is a special branch note dated the 1st of May 1996. Could we have paragraph 2, please? I've picked this out not so much because of the particular detail of this, but because of what's in the last sentence of paragraph 2. ML's youth policy is of interest because of the involvement of the party's younger followers in street demonstrations and public order events. It's one of a number of documents we've seen in which the phrase public order event is used. Was there any definition of what a public order event was?
It's just using the own words. We filled out public order event pro formas. But no.
What's striking about the phrase is it says public order event rather than making any reference to public disorder. What I'd like to know was did the use of this phrase focus people on any event at which members of the public were going to gather?
Unless your intel was absolutely certain that they would not do anything that could possibly, so basically, as long as they went along to the police, which you obviously have to do to do a demonstration, you said exactly what was going to happen, you adhered to it absolutely totally, then hopefully there should be no reason for us to do a separate public order, a public public, like you're saying, almost like a public disorder assessment.
That's what I'm driving at. Is there any threshold of risk at which you report or don't report?
There certainly would have been some demos that I would have attended, some small demonstrations that I would have attended. I was just trying to think, we'd done some campaigns. There was one as the hospital, Whitlingham Hospital or something like that, not that far from Hackney. We had the post office was being closed, one of the big sorting offices. So there were small demos there. My pre-assessment was that we're going down as militant. It will be effectively stewarded. There's no chance of disorder. So that went more forward than me doing a pro forma to the SDS. And I don't think that was even sent out to division. So yes, there would be examples of it, but very rarely.
But that would still be spoken about and recorded as a public order event, just one at which there was little risk of disorder.
But very few of them. Very few of them. If we had so many events that were so well, it would obviously diminish us in this with regards to disorder.
Can we take that down now, please? So, since we had an early start, would this be an appropriate time to take the mid-afternoon break?
Certainly, and I take it everyone would like 15 minutes. Yes,
Please,
15 minutes.
Sir, thank you very much.
fly.
Mr. Francis, will seem some time ago now, but early on Monday morning, I took you to documents that you had helpfully exhibited to your witness statement from the Special Branch Centenary Ball, and I wanted to know if you recognised the handwriting, 2 words, the SDS, written on the historical briefing. Am I right to understand you've now been shown the document?
I have.
Can you help us? Whose handwriting is that?
Mine.
Can we have up, please, document C199 246 228? This is a nominal pro forma, 1st of May 1996, on Dan Gilman, who has given evidence to this inquiry. You will see the usual information recorded, and then under PECS it says, will use violence when necessary. It may be your earlier answers will now explain this. Did you mean by that that he was a man who would use force in self-defence or the defence of others?
Basically both them, but it was more of exactly as it says, will use violence when necessary. And like I did say earlier, I didn't see these reports, but I'm very sure I put that terminology more often down than just purely violent. And certainly Mr. Heron, I put the same category down, but obviously it didn't transfer into this. And I can think of some other examples as well, that this is more defensive, but Dan and himself. But I've got to say with Dan, it's different because I didn't spend a lot of time with Dan early on. And obviously he's taken on a far greater stewarding role, waiting, whatever, platform role later on when I was there. His mentions there, but I definitely got a file created on him. I know that. But yes, not as much time with Dan, but yes, violence when necessary. And the other one, yeah, Dave Smith, apologies there. He should have had the same categories as well there.
Did you ever see Mr. Gilman use violence as a form of attack?
No.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have from B23 246 298, please? This is a file note. If we could have the text expanded, please. This records that on Friday, the 3rd of May, and we understand that to be the 3rd of May 1996, you and a detective constable met at the author's home address to discuss various operational and administrative matters concerning militant labour. You are recorded as being able to explain ideas for updating the militant labour file, which was agreed, and various strategies are put in place. There will be a subsequent meeting to continue this work, and then a meeting which will also involve the security service, which has been provisionally set for Tuesday the 25th of June. You are recorded as being rightly concerned that the branch file dealing with this target organisation should properly reflect the work he is doing. Can you recall whose back garden this is whose home address this is taking place at?
It's certainly, if that says my home address, this is absolute madness. I'll never invite anybody around to my house. It's definitely, all I can say is I don't know, it's definitely not around my real house, and I wouldn't have taken them round to my Duff house. No, I definitely...
Can you recall meeting a detective constable at any of your managers' home addresses to discuss those matters?
Am I allowed to see who that is again? It's DC,
The
whoever it is.
DC, we haven't got that immediately to hand, but we can come back to that.
That would help. But if we're talking about the only home address I ever visited for the purposes of discussing anything was round Bob Lambert's, but they were always like sort of dodgy type conversations that you didn't have under the sort of normal SDS type stuff. His was a little bit more questionable. But no, 1000%. I've never had anything at my home address. I'd be stunned if I actually went round DC, whatever his name is, round his home address. So sorry, I'd like to help, but I really can't help too much with that one. If I get his name, maybe weirdly, I think, yeah, I did go round his home.
Righto, well, we'll get the name and come back
you.
to that point. Can I take you to the third paragraph? HN43 is taking on an arduous role within militant Labour, that is to say, the job of branch secretary. This will be very time-consuming, but it will lead him to a further rich, and I think it's supposed to say seam, of intelligence obtaining to militant Labour matters at the highest level. He has clear objectives for his last year, and this includes providing pen pictures of a leading players at the London Centre. This is particularly important for HN43's professional standards, given the relative inactivity of the militant away team in an anti-fascist and general public order context. So can you help us with what intelligence becoming militant Labour branch secretary gave you access to that you had not access to before?
Basically, it's a leap up once again to introduce yourself, to be able to introduce yourself to people. So once again, I'd almost always say I'm militant branch secretary for Hackney and Islington. And it was very important, Hackney and Islington, to militant itself, because the militant HQ at the time was situated within Hackney, Hackney Wick as an area. So you had the full-time members, who many of them then lived close or nearby to the HQ, would also come to the meetings. And then just quickly going up, I was so stuck with the home address bit, but if we go back to the first paragraph, I can still see, as part of that, learning more about people, me being me, I'd also carefully read the old militant file over, and it was so out of date, it was just rubbish. It was nothing like the organisation I had in front of me. So really what I'd done is I set to militant, basically the HQ, if you walked into it, where every single office is, where every single worker was, who worked in the printing, where the computers were situated. He works in such and such department. Basically, within the tasking I had, which was then quite a tight time frames, about a year, I wanted to have as though if you walked into that militant, you'd almost know where everybody was and how they fitted into the structure.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab C209 246 296, please? That was impressively quick. We've got the name for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you want to... Thank you. If you could show that to the chairman and then to Mr. Francis, please.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, that makes more sense.
Does that assist you at all?
It does, but I still wouldn't have done it around his house, so I'm not quite sure. Who's the reporting officer on that? Because that might be my house.
It unhelpfully doesn't record it.
Right. Well, all I know is it wasn't my house. It wouldn't
The
have been
document
his.
makes it clear it's not your house and it's not
This-
the DC's house.
yes.
It's somebody else's
Somebody
house.
else's house. That's the one.
As I was saying, 246-296. This is a report of the 21st of May 1996. It covers the re-election of the Militant Labour Executive Committee. Was that reported for the benefit of the security service?
And primarily, yes, absolutely primarily, but C Squad under the pod desk, we're giving them a really good awareness what's going on in that organisation.
And how did you get this intelligence?
Through me now being who I am and basically cobbling it together over quite a long period of time, working out who these people are and the National Executive, and no doubt I would have had minutes from somewhere.
Could we have paragraph 2 expanded, please? The Executive Committee makes all ML's decisions, some of all of which are then presented to the party's National Committee for ratification. The National Committee meets quarterly. The reduction in size of the Executive Committee reflects the overall restructuring of ML, which is largely cost dictated. There were 3 Executive Committee members who were not re-elected. Colin de Freitas, formerly the party's Black and Asian Affairs Officer. ML found that its intervention in Black and Asian matters was a complete waste of time, and this intervention, as it is termed, has been abandoned. How did you get that particular piece of information?
Basically from whoever I spoke to, which I can't remember exactly who it was. It wouldn't have been one person. There's many people on that list that I knew as in good speaking terms, but it's not well worded. Basically, the short summary with regards to militant perspectives of their main objective. They're not individuals, they're very, very committed individuals, but we're talking from an organisation perspective. It's a waste of time and intervention with regards to how many recruits, how many Black and Asian recruits have they got since supporting these campaigns. And I don't think there's more than like a couple. And then the other thing, which actually takes precedence over membership, is finances. So by spending so much money on literature, spending so much money on placards, there's nothing free, all that lot, how much money did they get in response? And that particular campaigns, it sounds awful, and benefit of hindsight, it shouldn't be written that way, but from a very materialistic point of view, what does the party get by having the support in there? And that is what it was. It was a waste of time. But you know, the good that the party did by hopefully helping the campaigns, even with this sort of agenda that they wanted to recruit people, and the Militant also had an issue with regards to single issue campaigns. And if you yourself as a single issue person, you were sort of regarded as, you know, not being. You have to be educated that single issues are not the way forward. So not enough members, definitely not enough finances leads that, but not a complete waste of time with regards to helping people. But that's there.
And I'm interested also in how accurate it is in terms of predicting what ML went on to do. Did ML completely abandon campaigning for racial justice, or was it just shifting the balance and reducing its effort in that direction?
What you've just said, certainly at that point there wasn't a total abandonment, and obviously I didn't leave that later on. I don't know where it then went.
And now if we can take that document down now, we're reaching a stage where there isn't a great deal more reporting from you, although you've got a little while left in your deployment, but I want to take this opportunity to ask you some questions now, looking back over your deployment to ensure that we're not missing anything. We've seen that the only written reporting, well, the only evidence you've given about Baroness Lawrence has been that right at the start of your deployment where you orally reported something to HN 86. Did you, after reporting the partying rumour, did you, to the best of your recollection, at any other time in your deployment report anything orally or in writing about Baroness Lawrence?
Her specifically, no.
Same question, Dr. Lawrence.
No.
Same question, Dwayne Brooks.
No.
Same question, Stephen Lawrence campaign.
Yes.
What did you report about the Stephen Lawrence campaign?
There would have been at least two quite meaty analyses of where the Stephen Lawrence campaign was with regards to the left. And that would have definitely been completed with my input and Trevor Morris's input, but it's a negative report. So whether or not it went any further than we compiled a report, it was written, I don't know where you'd necessarily put a negative report, but it should have gone on the Stephen Lawrence campaign file. It really defies belief that the Metropolitan Police didn't want to know even a negative report that, you know, they wanted confirmation that Panther, the YRE, SWP, ANL, Workers' Power, all of them weren't involved. It just stretches beyond credibility that there wasn't something. And me and Trevor and early on other officers, we definitely spent time. There was time, and it was constructed as a report, which once again would have gone to John Webb to turn into something.
You said on Tuesday, yesterday morning, something to the effect that there were concerns about writing down anything about the Lawrences. Can you help us with what those concerns were?
Well, along the tasking, that would have not been written down. I'm sure of that. But with regards to this report I just mentioned, there'd be no reason. I can't imagine no reason not to reply that we're confirming what we were saying, that this party isn't being influenced by anybody. I can't understand why they wouldn't have that.
When you say the tasking, can you be more precise? Tasking to do what?
The HN86 one, the going out looking for anything.
And may already be clear from your answers, but just to be absolutely sure, was there anything that you relayed about the tasking to undermine the campaign, either in writing or orally?
So, can you repeat that, please?
Did you at any time during your deployment, after the partying rumour, report anything, either orally or in writing, about the Lawrences that might have been used to undermine them?
No, I didn't.
Same question for Dwayne Brooks.
No, I didn't.
Was that subject ever raised again with you by any of your managers after you reported on the partying rumour?
There certainly was an understanding with regards to Bob Lambert that when I was out, I was looking for the same sort of stuff, but it was done from his educating the public.
Was there ever any discussion with your managers about the influence that far left groups might be having or not having on the Lawrence campaign and the Lawrences?
Within the context of us writing the reports?
Yeah.
That's it.
And after those reports were put in?
No, and that would have been still when Trevor Morris was there. I never done anything by myself, and there was no other officer with any form of input. It had only been me and Trevor. So once Trevor had left, I didn't do it again.
The Guardian in 2013 reported you as saying that you were under huge and constant pressure from your superiors, and that throughout your deployment there was almost constant pressure on you personally to find out anything you could that would discredit these campaigns. Can you help us whether is that literally true, or did there come a point when your managers were no longer raising the issue of the Lawrences?
I just took it that it hadn't changed, that I hadn't been stood down from getting the information. I then was aware that Bob Lambert was aware what I was still looking for, and as I mentioned, it was every time there was a pinch point with regards to the Lawrence campaign has stopped here, there was always the wondering where they're going to go. And we were ready from our intelligence capability that if they then came over to any of the groups saying this is where we're going, we would have been able to report back on it. But that's the brief. But it to me, the Lawrence campaign throughout the entire time I was deployed, and obviously when I came off with it getting into the era of 1881, there was constant pressure with regards to if this campaign went anywhere, that we in the SDS want to know where they were going.
Was that a pressure you were feeling solely because of those initial taskings, or was it one that was reinforced in any way by the actions of your managers over the years of your deployment?
I think it's something I personally took more, because it was a tasking given to me, and then when Trevor Morris left, I just felt it was only me out there looking if there was something. So yeah, more me, I think.
Those questions were directed specifically at the Lawrences and Dwayne Brooks. Why, stepping back and looking at the question of other family justice campaigns, we've been through your reporting. There is some of it, but a pretty limited volume of recovered reporting on family justice campaigns. Earlier in the week, we went through your time with KAFG. I want to know now about your time with ML. In addition to the reports we've been through, can you recall any, or you've already told me about, can you recall anything else that you reported either orally or in writing about family justice campaigns?
No, but there was nothing really happening that wasn't being reported on. So if there was not too many demos or activities that were being reported that you haven't got reports, I think that shows more that the campaigns weren't actually doing that much publicly, because you mentioned one like Winston Silcott done one at the police station. Had that been regularly, let's say monthly, or other campaigns regularly, I would have been on there reporting more. And I think the absence of reports is more about the absence of activity, but every time there was an activity, I was in a position to either be on it or be able to report on it. So I don't think, unless I'm missing, that there was a lot of demos that I wasn't aware of, or I did go on all of them.
Can I now ask you about different types of activity that you're reporting on? I want you to compare how you were tasked in relation to campaigns which involved allegations of racism, whether against the police or because they arose from racist attacks, with how you were tasked to deal with things like militant labour involvement in schools, hospitals, industrial action, campaigning against legislation, that sort of thing. Was there any difference in the way in which your managers spoke to you about the importance or the purpose?
Very much so.
Could you expand on that, please?
Yes, basically those other campaigns that you mentioned, I would go on to them, but there wouldn't necessarily be a report writing necessary. I would go on them, but I actually done it more to maintain cover, because my concern always was if I only showed interest in the specific area I wanted the intelligence on, that wouldn't quite look right, because your rounded activists, particularly when they were in militant labour in some sort of position, would go on all matters, so whether it's a hospital demo, post office demo, or whatever else they were concerned with. But yeah, there was almost no interest from the SDS with regards to that reporting, but there'd always be great interest if I said, oh, on Saturday I'm going here, because it's whatever demo there is that you've just asked about, that sort of demonstrations. There's a marked difference, a very, very marked difference.
But SDS customers were generally interested in what ML was doing across the board?
The SDS mainly was public order. The other customers, even they had a limited interest in some of the events that militant labour involved in. They weren't that excited about the closing of a post office or a school or something like this.
Could we have up, please, from tab B79, this is your 2003 Officer A account, 726970. Could we go, once we've got that, to page 26 and to paragraph 129, that may be just over the page. I got close to a number of people within those organisations, including a well-known left-wing Asian lawyer, and was feeding intelligence back to the SDS about those various campaigns and how the Lawrence campaign, and indeed many other similar campaigns, were being infiltrated by political left-wing elements, including YRE and militant. If you want to see the lead up to that, just say so.
No.
My question is the well-known left-wing Asian lawyer Imran Khan?
Correct. But there's one wrong word. I got close is I got information from a number of people. I didn't get close to Mr. Khan at all. And once again, with regards to checking statements, it's very, very similar to what my barrister said with problems with me with this statement. This statement I made here was under the exact same extraordinary security measures. I couldn't have my own statement. It was done for me when I was sitting there. I never had access to the laptop that was there. Literally, I was sitting there with them, and I kept going in to make the statement. It's a read through at the end, and yeah, I never got close to him. I would take shame entirely if I would have been in a position to be close to Mr. Khan. I would have 100% reported back on him. But yeah, the word I'm looking for there is I got information on a number of people, including that. And the information I was basically feeding back was that Mr. Khan was, along with Suresh Grover, was the gatekeepers to this campaign, and they were not allowing people like the YRE, Panther UK, to dominate this campaign. And that was also borne out very much by Trevor Morris, and that was all fed into that report that I can't seem to see anywhere. But yeah, no, I didn't get close to Mr. Khan anymore. I got close to Michael Mansfield.
And where it says, we're being infiltrated by political left-wing elements, including YRE and militant, and that's with reference to the Lawrence campaign. The word infiltrated means surreptitiously and gradually. Again, is infiltrated an accurate description? Is to say the Lawrence campaign was being infiltrated by the YRE and militant accurate or not?
It's inaccurate. It's the same description I provided. I'd had information on the campaign, but not me being directly in that particular group.
The clause in the middle of that sentence, and indeed many other similar campaigns. Again, is it really accurate to say many other campaigns similar to the Lawrence campaign were being infiltrated by YRE and militant?
Being reported on in the manner that I've explained over the course of the afternoon would have been more accurate. Also saying 2000, where was this 2000? Is it the Ellison
2003.
One? Yeah, saying, sort of explain again that it's not necessary, but I wasn't particularly in a great mind when that was being written.
The last sentence of the paragraph, I knew that the ultimate aim of the security services was to try and stop these campaigns from going any further. Can I have a yes/no answer to this, please? Did anyone from the security service say anything to you directly to the effect that the security service wanted to stop the Stephen Lawrence campaign?
No, that should read the police, not the security services. There was never anything, and they showed no interest at the meeting or meetings I had. There was never a request for direct information on the Lawrence campaign off them at all.
Does the same apply to other justice campaigns with families from racial minorities?
Correct. Their interest was, they were interested with regards to, were militant able to make militant a lot bigger through being involved in these campaigns? And then after a while, I was even able to say that was a negative even to that.
Thank you. Can we take that document down now? I want to move to a completely different topic, and that is the actions of your then wife at the time. We've got some written evidence to the effect that the then Mrs. Francis approached the SDS and that it resulted in D.I. Lambert going to see her at your home. Is it your understanding that your ex-wife approached the SDS?
It was, and my understanding was, if it's correct or not, it's when I was in summer 96, this would have been, I don't know if you've been given a time specific, but that's when I was told it happened somewhere in that region.
With concerns about your welfare?
With concerns about my welfare and my behaviour at the time.
And would it be right to say there were some objective grounds for concern about your behaviour by then?
Looking back at it now, yes. At the time, I didn't feel that was right.
I'm afraid I'm going to ask you the question you just asked me. Do you know when this was? Can you any more precisely than the summer of 96?
The discussions and the admissions later on, we just had a single one-off discussion that this had taken place, and we never discussed it again, and I didn't dig any deeper, but I got the feeling it was summer 96, and I think it may have been even abroad when I was in Greece at the time.
And this was an approach you made confidentially without your knowledge?
Correct, yes.
How did you find out about it?
It was, we haven't sort of out of sync because we haven't got me coming off the unit yet. I'll obviously answer your question, but I think if everyone understand, when I came off the units, we've sort of left it on a very high. Your evidence here is how the security services, everybody was so pleased with me and the work that I was doing. And at the time, the reports were only but super positive. There was an ongoing thing that the subversion side was certainly going to be less interested, but there was actually a swing towards the security services side saying, look, we're closing down, but we want you to keep us aware of what's going on because we're pulling out more. So to me, that even implied more than I'd actually be staying out. So off I went to Greece, came back, and there was this huge shock that I was actually coming off the SDS later. So there I was off, and I had 6 months off. So I came off September 1997. I had 6 months off, and really, I just seriously, I could not understand. I had some run-ins with the management as well, which didn't no doubt help my cause. And really, it's just this perplexing question of what had actually happened, and I somehow or other, it's either she made some sort of conversation or otherwise, I literally said to her, and it happened straight after I had lunch with Bob Lambert. Bob Lambert came out to see me January 1997. He came out to see me, sort of welfare, we had a curry together, and he didn't say anything, but it was still niggling me that something had happened. So literally when I got back, I dropped in conversation that there was no need to worry. I'm not going to get angry at all, but Bob told me that you contacted the SDS. And she just turned around and says, oh, he promised he'd never say, and all this sort of stuff there. And next meeting I had with Bob Lambert, I said, oh, she told me that you'd done it, so I played both against each other that way around. And my ex-wife did say, she said, you know, the reason I didn't tell you is because your reaction wouldn't have been too good, and she was very right in that. You know, not on a violent basis or anything, but I certainly wasn't happy, and I wouldn't have been happy knowing what she'd done, despite it being for my good.
And what was her account of what had passed between her and D.I. Lambert when they'd met?
That he would not remove me off her. Firstly, that it was in total confidence that he wouldn't say to me, which he didn't, so he wouldn't say that I wouldn't be immediately removed from the SDS. And basically, so if I am correct, I don't know if you've got a date, you're going to say to me, actually, you're wrong. But the date I'm having is summer 96. So I'd then stay on from summer 96 all the way to summer 97. So instead of, I wouldn't be pulled off early, but I wouldn't have an extension to my tour, which it started September 93, so a normal tour would be September 97, but it wouldn't be extended for another year. And that's what she was told. I wouldn't be hoiked off. He would definitely not say it was her, and I would continue to stay out.
Can you recall whether you were being told that the plan was being changed because she had spoken to the unit, or whether D.I. Lambert was simply telling her what the plan already was for your deployment?
I don't know what he said to her. I can't answer what he might have said to her, but yeah, I can't possibly answer that. I don't know what he said to her.
Can we have up now tab B26 30756? This is a liaison file document sent to MPSB S Squad 12th of November 1996 for the attention of DCI Edmondson about the reporting on subversion. If we could have the text expanded, please. You are aware that there is no longer any requirement from the security service for the SDS to actively seek intelligence on subversive groups on our behalf. However, for Militant Labour, Socialist Workers' Party, we would be grateful for drop copies of reports that give an overall assessment of the health, size, morale and activity of the party, any significant changes in the leadership or ideology of the party, and any fundamental changes in the party such as splits, mergers, change of name, etc. In addition, we would be grateful for copies of any SWP party notes you may acquire. So far as it is relevant to Militant Labour, was this changed requirement communicated to you?
With regards to this is what I was saying, there seemed to be a short-term emphasis of there actually needed to be more high-grade intelligence. And this message here, the way the security services, the report writing is always very, they give a lot of intelligence there. And the fact they're asking for Militant Labour first is significant because they're asking for it ahead of the SWP. So when this comes in, they're asking for all that information, and Militant Labour in the priority of those two left groups there, that is their priority. And I felt, so I didn't have access to this, but I had a conversation with them, and they were saying they needed more information. And give or take well, it's definitely September 96, they say I'm coming off. So, you know, this total head warp, and the SWP coverage was bordering on zero. You'll get onto him, but H&81 was out, and he was making a right hash of it. So the SWP, we had no good coverage from the SWP, certainly nowhere where we were before when you had the likes of Trevor and Els. There I was in Militant Labour, and all of a sudden I'm coming off because there's honestly, it's in my head like doolally what was going on, plus everything else that was going on at the time.
Is what's going on that the security service has a waning interest in counter-subversion, the Cold War having ended some years before 1996, and it is reducing its level of interest, not extinguishing it altogether.
Correct.
But reducing it to what might be described as a watching brief.
And if people could identify significant shifts to help them, yes.
And they are getting the SDS to help them with the watching.
Very much so.
And they are redefining in A, B, and C what they're interested in.
Correct.
Their residual interest.
Correct.
And what is conspicuously absent from that list is there is no further interest in rank and file membership.
Not individually, but you are talking about the size, the structure, the health, like they're actually saying in A, B, and C. But for somebody to be able to report on that, for Militant Labour, from the SDS perspective, there's one person, and that was me. And this was a very critical time. This was ending. And really, that's the argument I was making. I wasn't saying I want to stay for another 4 or 5 years, but to finish the job off properly, I felt me staying out there for the year to finish it off would help them. Obviously, I wanted to stay out as well, but it wasn't just a general request. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think my intelligence could help. I wouldn't do it.
And so by this stage, waning security service interest, but with a residual requirement. Militant Labour pivoting away from campaigning for racial justice, not completely, but with more emphasis being put on industrial matters.
Yes.
And in terms of how it was seeking to advance its interests, looking more to the ballot box than to anything that generated public disorder.
Although later on the SDS postings show that wasn't quite right, they did actually continue in the public order area under the Socialist Party.
What was it? What did it look like to you at the time, public order-wise?
That public order size, it was shifting and it wasn't really known where it was going, but the militant Labour then into the Socialist Party, wherever it would go, they would be there. And that was part of my pitch to try to stay on as well.
Why did you want to stay on?
My home life I enjoy. Well, home life was not good, definitely, but I thoroughly enjoyed being an undercover SDS officer. And I've always been somebody who, if you do your work and you do it well, and you are being congratulated, say for example by the security services, I felt I was providing a good job, and that's really where I as a person thrive the best, is when I'm doing something and there's some sort of reward.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have tab B28 246930? This is an SDS operational report. It's dated the 17th of December 1996, bearing Keith Edmondson's name at the bottom. And it's a report to Commander Moss. So can we just have a look, please, at paragraph 1. DC Francis is scheduled to complete his operational tour of duty in September 1997. As you would expect with an officer of his calibre, his withdrawal strategy has been meticulously planned. Throughout his operation, life as a Germanophile has formed the basis of his cover story. DC Francis is a fluent German speaker and has a working knowledge of the country. So a document which is looking forward to your withdrawal.
Yes.
If you could zoom that back out again. Thank you very much. Can we look at paragraph 2, please? Commitment required of his target organisation, Militant Labour, is such that withdrawal from the group is very difficult. And then I'll leave you to read that for yourself.
Yes.
And if we then zoom back out, we'll see the rest of the document continues to flesh out your withdrawal plan, and that was due to start, if we look at paragraph 5, pick it up at paragraph 5. Your approval is therefore sought for DC Francis to travel to Berlin for the period commencing 3rd of January 1997 for 3 nights. Private arrangements have been made to cut the cost, etc. So permission being sought to commence your exfiltration strategy, starting with a trip to Berlin. Is that a fair summary of what is happening?
Correct. Almost within a few weeks of that very MI5 request about the militant stuff.
Did your managers sit down with you at any point around at this time to explain why you were being withdrawn?
Just from what you were basically saying with regards to the reduction of subversive interest, but I say they just contradicted themselves by a short while before talking about that very document without me seeing that document. So we also had that conversation, and a very short time later we're talking about this conversation being removed. But yes, this is a sit-down discussion with Keith. He's the authorising officer, but Bob Lambert would have, the one who's just gone to see my wife, Bob Lambert would have had a big part in helping doing this as well.
I'd like you to put yourself back to December 1996 and tell us, how did you feel when your managers were telling you, you're coming out, we're going to start your withdrawal strategy, we're going to start with you going off to Berlin in January?
I was already angry, but it certainly notched up the anger. And I haven't mentioned anywhere, but I actually spent 4 years playing a very angry character. And I deliberately, very, very briefly, I inserted anger literally when I went out there, because some other SDS officers were having problems with some of their targets, almost believing they were police officers. So I built into my character that I was an angry person. And if you were ever to even suggest to me that I was a police officer, then that's an entirely different reaction. So, and I'd actually, and I can mention, definitely one, because he's mentioned already, you had HM1. He had problems with somebody almost from day one accusing him of being a police officer. Now, that would never have happened to me when I was out, because I played a very, very angry person. And there's only one way is it going to go for you if you then accuse me of being a police officer. So I was angry for 4 years. We then had a number of other discussions, heated about other issues that I'm sure you're going to ask me about as well. And then on top of this, I was called Mr. Angry by then on the SDS itself. But yeah, that notched up another couple of levels.
Just what the notching up I want to try and track.
Right.
So can we start with, before this meeting, you said you were already angry, and you've explained that that was part of the persona you'd been playing for 4 years by this stage, or 3 years, just over 3 years. Was there any other reason by that stage to fuel your anger?
Yes, I was very unhappy at home. And basically what had happened is, I could best describe it as I was sick of lying. Literally sick of lying. I was lying all the time in the role of being undercover. I was then going home and having to pretend I was happy. And there was this odd thing, me, I'm not going to go blame game or anything like this, but me and my now ex-wife, we got married far too young. I don't think there was either that much likeness and love between both of us. There was a set of circumstances. And I felt that I was pretending all the time, and then what I was actually sick of was going home and actually pretending that I was happy in an environment that I wasn't happy. And I just wanted to be able to be truthful. And for example, my ex-wife, she touted over us having counselling. And I turned down counselling because I didn't want to go to counselling, because the counsellor would actually say to me, well, what's the problem? And if I was being truthful, I'd actually say, well, I don't like and I don't love this woman, but I'm with her because we've got the child. So there was an anger that I was in that situation. And whenever I became Pete Black, I was playing an angry person, but that life, it was a better life for me. So the anger manifested itself. And the other anger issues, there are other ones. I've mentioned the fact that I was angry about this Kennington police station one. There was a real anger about what happened to the Black Justice campaigns, the ones that the police officers had actually murdered the people, and that I was reporting on them. And I remember having a report, they came in to see me, and it's somewhere between Kennington, Kennington and Brixton police station. The police came in uniform, and as the SDS has asked me, Kennington police stations has asked an assessment about this demo. They're really, really worried about the black community's reaction. And the managers asked me, and they said, and I just literally said, stop effing killing black people. It's quite a simple equation for the London police to grasp. If you stop effing killing black people, you don't get people coming to your police station to want to tell you that. And I think the managers at this same period of time were quite shocked. And later on, thinking about it, I don't think that helped my chances of staying on the unit. Would also started having the beginning of a series of discussions, which also involved, when they actually said I was coming off, I actually said also to have a think about the mutings of a public inquiry about where I'd been for the last few years with regards to everything. So we also had this aspect of me very gently probing, but it was a probe more at the beginning, we've also thought, whereas if I was here maintaining the
we
knowledge...
will be coming
Sorry,
to that.
okay, just trying to work out, you asked me where
yeah.
I was angry about,
Yeah,
and that's just another strand of anger I had.
We'll come to that in a moment.
Sorry.
No, don't apologise. So we've done pre-meeting in December. We've done why the December meeting added another notch to your level of anger. You've told us that in January 1997 you find that your wife has gone to...
This isn't January 97. This is January 98 when I was off.
Ah, right. So you don't know that your wife has...
No, and you'll notice in there, I would have had no access to this document whatsoever. I'd never been shown this one. They could have very easily inserted in there that my wife had approached them as well.
And I know there's a matter that you raised with HN86 that we'll come to in a moment.
Yes.
Before we do that, I'd just like to stick chronologically to a couple of matters. The first is this. Michael Menson died on the 13th of February 1997 following an attack on or about the 28th of January 1997. Was Michael's death ever raised with you, or did you hear it being spoken about whilst you were still on the SDS?
I can't believe that I didn't hear about it, but I as far as I can remember, I was never involved with that campaign. I've certainly heard of it.
Are you able to help us with whether any of your colleagues, don't break any anonymity orders, but were any of your colleagues, to your knowledge, involved in reporting on the Michael Menson campaign?
What area was it? What area of
North London?
Then there's a possibility it could have been Mark Jenner, which I'm not breaking anything by saying that.
I'm really interested whether you personally knew.
No, but that because the North London area, the time that he may possibly be involved in that.
Again, before we go further into your exfiltration, I'm just going to take this opportunity to look at another matter. Blacklisting.
Yes.
Did you ever pass on confidential intelligence about activists to the Consulting Association yourself?
It wouldn't have been the Consulting Association back then. It would have been the Economic League. It became that later on. But whatever it's called, me directly on the SDS, no. But if you ask that from every SDS officer, which I know you have asked, I can't believe they're not all going to say the same answer, no. The question really should have been, is when you were on C Squad.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm coming to that. Any other, directly, did you pass on anything to any other blacklisting organisation?
It's totally impossible. We can't pass anything on. We're in such a vacuum.
Did you witness anybody else do so?
It's impossible to do so.
Did any special branch officer tell you that they had done so?
If we go back to C Squad, yes, I was aware of that.
Right, can you help us? When you're on C Squad, we know there's an industrial desk.
Yes.
My questions have tended to be directed at those who've sat on the industrial desk. Were you on the industrial desk, or were you on another desk within?
I was on the area liaison desk, but the C Squad, the whole of C Squad was probably about maybe the size of this room, slightly bigger. So when the industrial desk was, it'd be where the chairman is. I might be sitting over there, but I'd certainly know who was here. And the branch was a very small places, and everybody knew each other. So I would certainly be speaking to people in the industrial section and not giving away. They weren't one of the closed circle groups, so they were allowed to talk. There were some units you weren't allowed to talk openly about what you did, but the industrial unit wasn't one of those units.
Organisationally, can you help me? I've used the phrase industrial desk, but we know there were organisational changes over the years in C Squad. Can you help us with, by the time you are serving with the SDS, is there still an industrial desk?
Correct. Yes, there was. But there might be then by the time the pod starts midnight, what we're talking about. No, that's not correct. We have to be 100% sure because it's a very, very important matter. So by the time I left, which is January 1993, that was the position. But there was an industrial desk when I joined, but after that moment in time, I have not got a clue what happened there afterwards. So that's how I'd leave it there.
So, back to the question. I'll break it down. So we start with when you are yourself on C Squad. Do you hear any special branch officer tell you that they have passed intelligence to a blacklisting organisation, or not using those very words?
Yes,
Words to
there
that
certainly
effect.
was a link between the special branch and the economic league, and there is the industrial section would have had, because I find some things that some of the officers have said here a little bit of a stretch to understand, but there was nobody who was working on C Squad wouldn't have been aware of the economic league because they had a role within the subversive, the countering subversions. We had, Mr. Khan used the word vetting. So the vetting, you had a number of companies that people couldn't work for, if we just narrow it down, just the Trotskyists, because whoever decreed it, you wouldn't be able to work for them. And the consultants in the Economic League at the time was also within that loop of they didn't want these Trotskyists organising there. So if in the event you had any sort of inquiry finding out, is this person Trotskyist, you'd look through our records, then it's up to the industrial desk, whoever the allocated Sergeant DS was, there would have been one, maybe two, that would have a liaison role between them and the Economic League. And it's up to them, if the intelligence was only one way, that's certainly what they're saying, the branch would have intelligence come only one way.
Sorry, what do you mean by...
As the Economic League would give them intelligence, look, this is all the people who's on our sites or whatever it is, but you don't have a one-way relationship. You have to give something back. And I know there's a specific example, and I'll be able to name the officer, who I know had a lunch with somebody in the building industry, very senior within it. And I was junior on the desk to him, and I was sent down to go and research if the people had files that were known to the special branch. I then went back to the reporting sergeant. I don't know what happened with it. But the fact I was asked as a junior one, and this was in the building industry.
Can we start by asking you to write down the name of the sergeant concerned?
And he's nothing to do with the SDS. He doesn't feature in your list at all.
Understood.
And I'll also put down, I actually know the person he spoke to as well, if you'd like that as well.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I understood you correctly, a sergeant. Was he linked to the industrial desk?
No, he was on my, when I was doing the 3 area, he was one of the sergeants there.
The 3-area sergeant
Yes.
has had a meal. When you said building, do you mean within Scotland Yard or another building?
No, outside. He was taken out for lunch.
At a building, at a restaurant, or...
It certainly wasn't a builder's cafe.
He's taken for lunch, and he comes back.
No, before.
Before he goes to lunch, he's asking you...
Yes.
Does he tell you he's doing that for the purposes of the lunch?
Correct.
Does he make it worth your while?
It's not necessary.
He just orders you to do it?
Well, it's not even an order.
Just asks you.
Asked me to do it. It's a menial task. I go down and do it. And I do not know, and I'd just like to emphasise, there's no suggestion from me that there was any monetary reward he was receiving either. I don't think so. I'm not aware of it.
Does he tell you that he has disclosed any of this information to his contact?
No, he just went off for lunch. I'd given him that. I didn't question any further, but at that particular point in time, what would I have felt about it if these subversives, which I'm saying the subversives in the special branch decreed by them, was stopped from getting into the place that I've just said there? That was our role in countering subversions in all its forms, in all its places it took. So I had no compunction, I had no misunderstanding. Can you go and check this in SBR for us?
The second name you wrote down, is that the name of an organisation or a person?
That's his surname.
His surname.
Yes.
Did you know whether this person was attached to a particular organisation or company?
No, but he had access. That's why the whole conversation's gone. He was also part of the Economic League, however they paid for other bits.
I understand. Was it your understanding that passing information to the Economic League was not strictly allowed?
I think we're back in the grey area where the special branch loved to live.
Does that mean it wasn't officially sanctioned?
Within the special branch, there would have been no comeback because the fight against subversion is the way off.
Was it officially authorised?
It certainly wasn't on a police form.
Is it a case of a blind eye being turned to people leaking information, or is it more than that and a case of senior management encouraging it?
It's countering subversion. I can't go any further. I don't understand any further, but this officer did not feel it wasn't hidden away, or Peter do this quite. If it was scary, he would have done it himself. He's talking about a junior DC, very junior, because only really arrived this month. Oh, I can't be bothered to go and do this in SBR myself. SBR was huge, thousands of files, so you'd go down, it'd take some time to work it. He sent me down there because it's just a menial task. It wasn't like super secret, don't tell anybody else, Peter, you did it.
Was this a one-off, or did it happen more than once?
No, that was one occasion for me, one occasion, but it was quite a memorable occasion for me to do it.
Are you aware of any other occasions involving other people?
No.
Those questions were all directed at your time when you were on C Squad. At any other time in your police service, did you become aware of anybody passing information to any form of blacklisting organisation?
No, it purely C Squad because that's relevant to C Squad.
Can I ask you now, you mentioned vetting. I'd just like to be clear. We understand that there is a vetting system for people who apply for certain roles working for the state.
Yes.
For example, you had to be vetted to be a special branch officer.
Correct.
Is the vetting that you are talking about for certain commercial companies the same official form of vetting or not?
You'd have to ask somebody who worked in vetting, I don't know. But can I write down one thing that it was called, which I don't know is in the public domain at all? There was a particular name of it. And this was held centrally in a special branch. what I'll do is I've just put a selection of 3 companies that I know were on this thing.
Thank you.
Were you ever aware of any form of vetting requirement for local government posts?
Not personally aware, no.
Were you ever aware of any channels by which information was exchanged between Special Branch and the company McDonald's?
Not personally, no.
We can resume now the chronology of events leading.
Before we do, may I ask a question to clear something in my own mind?
Of course, sir.
The detective sergeant whose name you wrote down
Yes.
before he went off to have lunch with
Yes.
the individual whose name you've written down, what precisely did he ask you to do?
He gave me a small list. I can't remember, it wasn't a great big list, it was a small list to go down to Special Branch records, to go down to see if they were known to us. And it certainly wasn't bringing files up for him to take out or anything like this. It just purely would have been, yes, known to Special Branch or something like that. From there, it certainly wasn't, oh, here's his file, off he goes to lunch with those Special Branch files or something like that. It would have just been enough that the person is asking, yes, he's known to Special Branch, i.e. you don't want to then employ that person because he's potentially a subversive.
Can you remember roughly the number of people on the
No,
list?
sir,
No.
no.
Or how long it took you?
Not particularly long.
No. Thank you.
Could we have up, please, from tab B32, 747851? This is a file note produced by Keith Edmondson. We understand it to be dated the 11th of June 1997. It's entitled Note for File, Peter Francis, Application to Join the Surveillance Team on Leaving the SDS. And if we look at paragraph 1, first of all, give you a moment to read that, but is it fair to say that you had raised a wish to transfer to surveillance with Sergeant War, and you'd done so in about February 1997?
Correct. And in the intervening period from that last report to this report, because there's a lot been said as how badly I took the fact that I was being removed off the SDS, it was exactly the opposite. I didn't like being removed off the SDS, but when I was told I wasn't, I then got on to do a lot of work to make sure my exfiltration plan was wrong, was done properly, and then I started to think to myself, right, I definitely am coming off the SDS, this is where I'd like to go to, but certainly I'd started working professionally by then. I'd gone to Germany. The activists aware that my mother was ill, my pretend mother was ill. So I was doing, there's been something raised, I can't remember who said it, whatever, but I took it really, really badly. I wasn't happy with it, but I was getting on with it. But yes, no war somewhere raised with him, but I also would have raised it higher. BL, Keith would have also been discussed too.
We'll come to that in the very next paragraph. If we
Okay.
could go to paragraph 2. Records that you had spoken to DCI Edmondson and raised your objections based on operational security grounds to the posting. he had raised his objections with you. However, I was left in no doubt as to the depth of Peter's feelings on this matter. He was quite adamant that no other posting would be acceptable. Aware of this, we spoke about just how he could perform the task without jeopardising his former position. Peter had obviously given careful thought to a posting and was able to satisfy me that it was manageable. So is it accurate to say that you had a conversation with DCI Edmondson, the upshot of which is you persuaded him that transferring to surveillance after the SDS would be feasible in your case?
He didn't come up with a valid reason why I couldn't do it. That's basically as far as I was concerned. I'd listen to anybody, and you had the scenario of James Thompson going on to protection. There's no way should he have gone on to protection. I would have accepted not to go on to protection because it's a public-facing role. You can be caught out on TV. Surveillance was hidden. I was going to go on surveillance before the SDS, and so adamant with regards to when I was speaking to Mr. Edmondson, it wasn't disrespectful, it was just an argument if he could possibly explain to me why it couldn't be done. He couldn't.
Did he actually tell you he'd been persuaded, or did you just have the conversation?
I felt by the end of it I'd persuaded him.
Could we have paragraph 4, please? So you've spoken to your sergeant, you've spoken to your DCI, and now you have a meeting with HN86, who by this stage is in a more senior role. HN86 met with Peter and me at NLOP, that's North London OP, is it?
Correct.
On the 22nd of May 1997 to discuss the matter. One can only say that Peter was more than usually intense. Would it be fair to say that this was a matter that concerned you, mattered a lot to you?
And we also, that was the beginning of my crossover when I could no longer really get out of my very angry undercover persona. It started to seep into my own life quite markedly.
He stated quite categorically that he would only serve on the surveillance team and actually told HN86 that is what he was coming back to. I leave the reader to imagine HN86's demeanour at that precise moment. 2 exclamation marks. HN86, once he had composed himself, told Peter that he would have to take time to think about what he had heard, but stated that any decision would have to be a management decision taking all aspects into account. Now, you've painted a picture for us already as HN86 as a somewhat strong and autocratic leader. Correct me if I am overstating that, but is that what DCI Edmondson's exclamations relate to?
Very much so, and I think in the intervening 4 years I had changed drastically, but HN86 had become even more severe at that stage as well.
What HN86 did offer was the certainty of staying on S Squad, but working from Tintagel as part of the now developing OSU team. Without giving any promises as to the future, HN86 indicated that such a move would enable the senior management of the surveillance team an opportunity to assess Peter and make their own decision as to his eventual suitability. Peter then left HN86 with me to discuss what had taken place. HN86 was clearly confounded by the way Peter had acted, but I did remind HN86 that this is not unusual in an officer at this stage of his departure from the field. Is it right that you were essentially offered a compromise of staying on S Squad, which did not close the door on an ultimate move to the surveillance team?
I did just draw attention to the now developing Operation Support Unit team as an OSU. The OSU did not have a glowing reputation beforehand. It was a bit of a drop centre for sort of not the best special branch officers. So I took it as a bit of an insult that I would be not going onto S-squad surveillance. I'd be going to the OSU team. But what they emphasised to me is they were bringing a new sergeant onto the team. He was a uniform direct entrance. It was a Deadwood posting, so I took it as an insult that I was going there. But that's why he's actually inserted the word now developing, because they were aware it had a bad reputation, and they actually sold it to me as in, we don't regard you as Deadwood. You will bring changes. We got a new sergeant, which I thought was a bit of a sort of I thought it was a bit of a sort of pap sort of way of doing it. But I listened to the thing. But yes, the carrot of if I behave myself and do well on the OSU team, then yes, the surveillance where I was supposed to go before the SDS might be open to me.
Paragraph 6, please. At the next available meeting, Bob Lambert and I gave Peter the news. He was not impressed, saying that he had never had any faith in my ability to get him the move he wanted. So the news was that you were not going to surveillance.
Yes.
And you were going to the OSU, is that right?
Yes, the now developing, or whatever they were calling it.
All the talk of aftercare was merely thin air. He then stated that he would now decide his future for himself and whether he would return to work. Somewhat bemused, I asked him whether that meant return to work at any time until he was offered something he wanted or actually resign from the police service. That question was left unanswered, or at least I did not understand the answer. We then spoke about what HN86 had suggested, and the functions of the OSU, as we understood them, were explained to Peter. He asked to be able to speak with a member of the team who would be able to spell out precisely what its functions are from a practical level. I said that I would arrange for a meeting with blank, with whom Peter has previously worked. Peter had previously mentioned working with the financial section, but that has not been pursued. The main reason is that they are often in court seeking orders under the POT. Is that the Prevention of Terrorism
Yes,
Act?
it is.
And this certainly would preclude Peter from that work. Is that a fair summary of the meeting with Bob Lambert and DCI Edmondson?
Yes, it was.
How did you feel about HN86's decision?
Let down by him because I'm saying I was due to go on surveillance beforehand. Surveillance wasn't a unit that when you leave the SDS you weren't allowed to go on. And once again, I couldn't work out why I was leaving the SDS, and now I couldn't work out why I was being dumped in the OSU. So I'm saying it wasn't a great posting. Well, it became a good posting. I turned it into a good posting, but before I went, its reputation preceded it. And it was something I was what have I done wrong? Well, what had I done wrong? But there we are.
Were you in any doubt that this was HN86's personal decision?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, because of Keith and Bob had tried, Noel Ward suggested it, yes, I suppose I did. I don't know, has HN86 got the ability to call everything? I ended up having another discussion with this and other things that were going on and arced it over HN86 because I took it all the way up to Roger Pearce in the end. So I think I was checking that he had that authority to make that decision.
And were you left with the impression it was his decision or Roger Pearce's?
By the time I then had a subsequent meeting with Roger Pearce, it was evident it was Roger Pearce's decision as well.
Amongst the emotions you felt, were you feeling angry?
I was feeling angry. I think I was feeling more let down and confused. But there was definitely an angry persona there as well.
Was that feeling that you were let down and confused directed at any particular person, or was it a general feeling that you were being let down?
I told Keith as well he'd let me down as well, so I felt fairly let down by universally everybody.
I'm sorry to ask the chairman to rise at such a low point, but sir, I am now going to move to another topic.
Yes.
Would this be a convenient? That's what I mean. A convenient. Don't worry. A convenient point to rise until tomorrow.
I had noticed the time as well.
And Mr. Francis, I can tell you we are on course to finish tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. If that, I believe, realistic statement proves correct, you've only one more day to go.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.